On today's tax update, the IRS is developing plans to partially close in case the government shutdown happens at the end of the month, so we'll take a look at what will happen for those still waiting on their taxes and refunds to be processed. We will also recap where things currently stand with the backlog of unprocessed tax returns before a possible shutdown, as well as amended returns. And then we'll take a look at some of those tax transcript codes viewers are reporting, as well as some of those IRS's notices being mailed out. Return backlog as yet again, the IRS has not provided any update on the remaining amount of unprocessed tax returns in over 2 weeks. However, we do believe the total amount remaining is less than 1 million tax returns left, and that is both e-file and paper returns filed this year, as well as any leftover from last year. Now, in comparison, at this point last September, there were still 7.2 million unprocessed tax returns remaining, with 1.6 million being e-file and 5.6 million being paper returns. So that is a huge difference from what we are seeing this year. So definitely a huge improvement. On the amended tax return side of things, the IRS has not released any new updated numbers, although we believe the amount of unprocessed tax returns for amended returns is now below 800,000. And per comparison, at this point last year, there were still 1.7 million amended returns left. So the backlog is now roughly half of what we saw last year, but again, extremely long processing times, on average 5 to 7 months. Employer tax returns remain the same, and that is important for those waiting on the IRS to process their employer's wage information so that they can have those returns processed and refunds issued. Moving on to the next batch of tax refunds scheduled for release this week, as the next round of direct deposits are scheduled to be released and transmitted to banks on September 27th, and do allow up until October 2nd for those to post to your bank account if you're part of the latest batch. Now, for those who are scheduled to receive paper checks, the next round of those are scheduled to be printed and mailed out on September 29th, and you should receive those within 7 to 10 days in the mail. With the potential government shutdown just days away, the National Treasury Employees Union, which represents federal employees including IRS employees, confirmed Friday that the IRS could close if the government shuts down. Now, the IRS is developing a contingency plan for a possible government shutdown, the union stated last week. One potential concern of a partial or full shutdown at the IRS is how taxpayers who received an extension in April to file the returns before the October 16th deadline will make out. In addition to missing deadlines, other concerns include the possibility of a large backlog of tax returns and delays to upgrading the IRS computer systems. Now, the IRS has yet to release its final plan, so we don't know the full scope of the impact of a government shutdown. The IRS told the union last week that it planned to use funding from the Inflation Reduction Act to avoid closing in the event of a shutdown. But in an email to IRS employees last Thursday, the union said the IRS is severely limited in its use of Inflation Reduction Act funds to stay open in the event of a government shutdown. Now, back during the last partial government shutdown in late 2018 and into early 2019, it was reported 88% of IRS employees were officially furloughed. So if that repeats itself, for those of you experiencing delays, you can encounter even more issues reaching the IRS by phone, and ultimately slower tax processing times, and ultimately delays in tax refunds. For those of you waiting on amended returns or under audit right now as well, you can experience even further delays as a result of the shutdown. So there's going to be a lot of work to be done in the next few days to see if a shutdown can be avoided, and also possibly an extension of government till November 1st, in which we might be back here in the same position in about a month, much closer to next tax season. Moving on to those tax transcript codes that are commonly being reported, starting off with the 570 and 971 codes. We're seeing these codes come up in most of the comment sections of the videos, and it's something that's going to be expected when an issue arises. However, if you're seeing these two codes, you'll fall into one of two categories. If the 570 and 971 codes display the same date on the tax transcript, that means the IRS has autocorrected the issue themselves, probably resulting in a refund adjustment, and that refund itself has been cleared to be released. If the codes have two separate dates, that means the IRS continues to work on the issue, and a letter is being sent out by the IRS as indicated by the 971 code, which may give further insight on the issue, including a request for documentation. Now, we do say it may give further insight because there are cases where it will simply be a 60-day notice from the IRS, indicating they need more time to process the tax return, but no further information will be provided in that letter. Moving on to those notices, a number of you have reported receiving at least one, if not multiple, 60-day notices from the IRS. Now, there are different versions of this notice, one being seen here, while others reported receiving the CP05 notice. Now, oftentimes, the 60-day notice has to do with the IRS needing to verify your reported wages, while the CP05 notice confirms the reviewing income, tax withholdings, and credits. Specifically in the case of the 60-day notice, you will want to confirm the IRS has received your wages from your employer or former employer for tax year 2022. You will want to log into your IRS account and access your wage and income transcript to confirm. Now, if you're not seeing anything there, you will want to log into your Social Security account at ssa.gov and view your earnings record for 2022. Now, if you don't see anything there, contact the IRS about this immediately, as well as possibly notify your employer to ensure they have your right Social Security number on file when they submitted their taxes, and that in fact they had submitted their taxes. Another commonly reported notice has to do with ID verification, often the 5071C notice. Now, the IRS is continuing to identify a high number of fraudulent tax returns filed this year, over 31,000 of them, with over 30,000 of them being successfully stopped, totaling over $300 million of refunds. Last year was even worse, with over 76,000 fraudulent returns identified, but the IRS did stop $807 million worth of fraudulent refunds from being sent out. So the ID verification methods set in place were largely successful, but unfortunately this is causing delays for legitimate tax filers such as you. The process to complete ID verification in most cases is generally simple and can be completed online by going to the irs.gov website and completing the process through id.me. If you're still impacted by delays and claimed one of several credits, such as the Earned Income Tax Credit, that is likely the cause of your delay because your tax return is now under audit or further review. The CP75 notice will request specific documents relating to either the Earned Income Tax Credit or additional child tax credit. These documents may include providing proof of residency, relationship, and age of the dependent, such as a birth certificate, school records showing you live within the same household. Why this notice is important is that in tax year 2021, 42% of those under EITC audits never even responded to the notice. So whether they never received it in the mail or just did not understand it, those are some of the reasons, but in the end they were disqualified for receiving the EITC or CTC portion of their refund. And that's important because those requests need to be answered. This is something that will not resolve themselves. So there are likely some of you out there waiting on your refund because your tax return is under audit and you don't realize it because you never received that notice in the mail. Now, if you do receive this notice starting this year, you can now upload the requesting documents online to the IRS website, which is going to speed up processing times for you versus the two traditional methods, which is mailing in the requested documentation by mail, which will result in the slowest processing times, or sending it in by fax. If you think you should have received this notice, do immediately contact the IRS to have a duplicate one reissued because there are some items that appear on the notice, some numbers specifically, that you'll need in order to upload the requested documents to the IRS website. Let us know in the comments section below about your ongoing tax refund issue. In the meantime, we'll keep monitoring the situation for further developments, including this potential government shutdown and how it will impact the IRS and the processing of those tax refunds. So make sure to click on the thumbs up and subscribe button below for future updates on this channel, and thanks for watching.